Hello, my name is Hope, and I am the family scapegoat. Welcome back to another episode of the Scapegoat Speaks. In the prior two episodes, I shared a few examples of my siblings who kept me in the scapegoat role. Because I was so accustomed to my parents' cruelty, gaslighting, projection, verbal, and physical abuse, I didn't realize the siblings were doing the same things until the past year. There was a major event where a big, huge piece of the puzzle snapped into place, and suddenly it all started to make sense. When I was adult, there were numerous times where the siblings concocted lies or gaslit me, but I didn't see it at the time. I had a conversation with one sibling who was insistent that my eye color was brown when in fact they are not. But she was adamant and then called me a liar. She even went so far as to claim her eyes were violet when in fact they are not. I sent her a photo of myself to prove my eyes weren't brown, and then she went silent. The conversation was bizarre, but I didn't push it. Later, I noticed that was a pattern with her. She'd make some weird accusations, and when I would question the reality, she would go silent or just shrug her shoulders. With that same sibling, I pretty much walked on eggshells. I never knew when she'd get mad about something and yell at me, even when I had nothing to do with the reason for her anger. I tried to keep a low profile, but something would always set her off. She would leave me to finish a meal by myself because she didn't like what she had ordered. Insults and belittling remarks were mixed in with good measure. If I did speak up and try to defend myself, it was met with anger and denial, so I stopped and shrunk to keep the peace. I'd replay everything in my head trying to figure out what I did wrong. To be honest, it was the same way with the other siblings, but not as bad. Walking on eggshells was the norm, and I never knew when one of them would decide to shut me down after they had enough of whatever they wanted. If we were out somewhere and a sibling wasn't having a good time, I'd have to leave. If I didn't comply, a round of no contact was in store. It did get worse as we got older. I think because they realized if they did the same thing the parents did, it worked, until it didn't. I finally started to push back and call them out on their lies and petty behavior. That didn't go well. They came back at me with the same lies the parents had drilled into them, that I was a selfish liar. Then more bizarre lies started, but they were hidden from me, just like what the parents had done, so I didn't get a chance to defend myself. I got to the point where I had started to cut contact. Sometimes it would last for a few years, and then I'd reconcile. When I got older, I felt a little on edge around my nieces, nephews, and my siblings' spouses. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but something was off. They didn't say much and would look to their parent or partner for guidance. I always got the impression something had been said about me behind my back. I now have zero doubt that was the case. The nieces and nephews had the expectation of gifts and endless giving with zero thanks, just like their parents. I stayed quiet and observed. I remember one visit when we all traveled together and the 4-year-old nephew got to sleep in a bed and I was delegated to the couch. I was annoyed, but I didn't want to ruin the trip, so I didn't say anything. But now I see how my siblings made sure their children knew I was a scapegoat, both by their actions and words. Those uncomfortable feelings finally made sense. Setting boundaries was met with fierce resistance, and they doubled down on calling me difficult, the problem, and selfish. I finally got to the point where I cut contact with one parent and one sibling. At the end of the day, our moral viewpoints didn't align, and I was tired of being accused of the crazy things they were doing. The more I asserted boundaries, the more difficult I was labeled, so I cut more ties. 1 year became 5, 5 years became 10, and I realized I didn't miss the drama, the lies, the walking on eggshells, and the hate. I missed the idea of having a normal family, and it made me very sad, but I just couldn't continue to subject myself to the abuse. I had minimal contact with a couple of the family members, but it was strained. Culmination occurred when I was being served with a huge dose of narcissistic discard from a sibling. After weeks of walking on eggshells, escalating verbal abuse, and gaslighting, the tables were flipped, and I was accused of the very things that were being done to me. I felt like I'd been thrown back into my adolescent years. I felt like the rug had been pulled out from under me. I questioned my own sanity and reality. What if I really was the problem and the crazy one? But I had to remind myself of the facts I had witnessed and that I wasn't the only one who experienced the sibling's abuse. The sibling's spouse was also attacked 100 times worse than what I had endured. I had learned how the sibling used the other siblings to triangulate because there was strength in numbers. Other members of the family who the sibling had stated she didn't care about were used to attack me and confirm their lies. That was the moment I realized I had to cut contact with every last one of them. The hive was beyond repair. It was pointless to defend myself. I wished them well and closed the door behind. I finally saw everything for what it was, and I couldn't unsee it. It's extremely painful to finally give up hope of having the family you were born into. It makes me so incredibly sad to see so many of them continuing the same toxic and narcissistic patterns with their own families. The scapegoat in me wants to scream and yell, "No! Stop doing the same things to your kids that our parents did to us!" But they refuse to see it. My heart aches for their children and grandchildren. They refuse to see history repeating itself. But on the flip side, there is a calm and peace of not having to carry that heavy weight. It feels a bit empty, but there is also some excitement for the future. I feel like I can finally really live my life. I can do what I want to do and not care what the hell they think. It's a relief to escape the people who hurt me the most, my own family. It's something of interest. I never did confide my biggest dreams or worst fears with my family members. I think I knew deep down that I couldn't trust them. I'm so thankful for not sharing who I truly am with them because I have no doubt it would have been used against me. I kept their secrets, but things I said were loaded and shot back at me. Putting together the pieces of the puzzle took a lot of research, analysis, and recollection. In the next episode, I'll discuss the various tools I use to help me make sense of the mayhem and come to the final decision to cut all ties. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Scapegoat Speaks. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel.